Incoming transmission. Oh no.
Welcome to TennoTalk, episode 6. I'm your host, Rebecca, and joining me is the awesome co-host, Jeremy.
Beard Prime is here.
Yes, he is. I love that you changed your name this week to that. It is amazing.
Yeah.
And
thank you, fans.
Yeah, that came over from one of our streams. They started calling him Beard Prime, so because of the glorious beard.
Yep.
So we changed it. So, and what a week it has been. This has been probably the busiest week of Warframe for me ever.
Which is super funny because it's probably the least involved I've been since we started playing, thanks to my new job.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I really checked out this week.
Well, it's because you were tired. You've been working 10 hours, 5 days a week now.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But yeah, I've been super busy this week. I hit MR13. I got 3 new Prime weapons, the Galatine Prime, the Tigris Prime, the Cerberus Prime, and I'm working on getting those leveled. Formed a couple new frames. It has just been crazy. But the best thing that happened this week is Jeremy and I got new chairs.
Oh, yes, we did.
Oh, these things are heaven. It is day 2 that my butt is in this chair, and I'm very happy.
And you guys can't hear them.
Yeah. They do make a little bit of creaky noises. They lean back and forth a little bit, like they rock on it from where it's at. But overall, it's a lot quieter, and they are so much more stable.
Yep.
So
firmer. That's important. I used to think like a nice cushy chair was what I wanted until we started streaming in one. And cushy chairs at about the 2-hour mark, things start getting
painful,
swampy.
Ugh.
Can I say that?
Yeah,
can I say that on the show? I mean, it's true. And anybody so we had leather chairs that had probably a good 1.5 to 2 inches worth of give when you sat down in them. They were really padded, and that padding wasn't very firm, so you kind of sunk down in it. And when we're at the store and we're sitting down in them, and it kind of swallows you up, and you're like, oh yeah, this is like a massage. Nice. But they don't let you spend the whole day in the chair at the store. Now I know why, because these have, I think it's perforated leather.
Yeah, it's perforated leather
and
on these.
It's surprisingly cool, and there's almost no give to the padding. So you're actually sitting on top of the chair instead of halfway inside the chair.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the biggest thing for me is the armrests are adjustable, so I actually raised it up so it's on the same plane as my desk.
And they're nice, and they tilt in and out, which is really nice, so I can angle them in if I have my elbows sticking out, or I can just keep them straight if I'm having better posture. I really like the lumbar pillow. That's one of my favorites, but I have a really bad back, and I never realized how much sitting without something supporting my lumbar was hurting until I didn't have it. And now that I have it, my back is hurting, but it's hurting consistency, but less, because I think it's trying to get used to the fact that I'm sitting in better posture now.
Yeah, I actually was surprised. I saw this, on the internet and the pictures and stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'll probably take that off."
Yep. Nope.
It's still on.
It is still
on. I like it. It like you said, I didn't realize that how comfortable that would be after a little while of that pushing in the right spot. I had to adjust it quite a bit, figure out where it goes, but.
Yeah, and I'm constantly moving mine around, depending on where my back hurts, where I feel like I need the support. So I shift it up and down constantly. Of do I want more pressure on my lower back because it's hurting right now, or do I want it up a little bit higher so it's not right on my coccyx bone area down at the bottom of my lumbar? So yeah, but these things are super comfortable. Now we'll see how long they hold up.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing.
As of right now, we're happy, and I'm really excited to stream this week because it means I'll be probably a little bit more comfortable while streaming, which is always great.
And at this point, if we name drop the chairs, people will think we're sponsored.
Yeah, I know, right?
So we won't say it, so that way we're being honest. And in 6 months, when we finally say what kind of chair we got, or if you watch the stream because we were talking about it.
Yeah, you'll probably see him on the stream.
You'll know, we weren't paid to say this.
Exactly, yeah, we're not this. We're not trying to endorse a chair or anything. This is just our honest opinion so far.
If they called, I'd be like, yeah, we'll endorse your chairs.
I know, right?
I don't know, like you just said. If they hold up, in 6 months, if we're still sitting in them and they're still comfortable, because the brown ones we had, within 6 months, we were like, okay, we're going to need new chairs.
Yeah. And I mean, they were kind of cheap. They were $100 office chair. And we're like, yeah, they're high back, they're comfortable. But we were in desperation at that point. Like, we needed new chairs because we were sitting on kitchen chairs.
Yeah, I had a kitchen chair, and you had one of those, like, $20 computer chairs from Walmart.
Yeah, super old chair. It was bad.
Yeah, it was a rickety piece of crap.
Yep, so
we needed to change. Because it was on top of being, like, a $20 chair from Walmart. It was also, like, 4 years old.
Yes, it was really old.
It was my computer chair from when I still lived with my parents, so it was more than 4 years.
Oh, it was super old.
That was real old.
Real old.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I guess back to the more Warframe-centered things, now that we've ranted and raved about how happy our butts and backs are. So like I mentioned, I hit MR13 this week, which was awesome because I was able to buy a Galatine Prime, which I was super excited about. And we farmed the Tigris and the Sibris for me. With relics this week, which was super awesome. So thank you for everybody that helped out and, donated their relics to kind of help us get those. I really appreciate it. But I think the biggest part for me has been more formaing. And I know we say this every week, we're working on forma. But this week I actually sat down and I really looked because there's a couple of us that want to start more Eidolon hunting now to get rep and to get some of those arcanes that they have, which is really important. I still only have the starter arcane from doing my first Eidolon hunt, and it's not that good, and I haven't been able to get one since. So we're looking at doing those. So I started looking at Volt, and I'm still bitter about this forma issue that we talked about a couple episodes back.
Yeah.
Because right now, because I'm trying to build my Volt, because I have Volt Prime, I'm trying to build him so that I have a couple different options depending on what I'm doing. And one of them is the Eidolon hunting build, which is heavy duration and high duration and high efficiency because you want to have good shields, to help with those crits and stuff like that. And maybe a little bit of power strength so you can, keep up a little bit with some of your other abilities. And I'm having a lot of trouble because I started with a different build. And I started doing the force spam build with the capacitance, I think is how you say it. His specific one that every single time he uses his 4, a percentage of the damage is given back as overshields to you and your allies, which is really nice.
I was to say, quick interjection. That's really cool.
I know, right?
I hadn't looked at any of Volt's augment mods because I started with him. And then I kind of transitioned into other frames, and I never really looked back until really recently when I got Volt Prime. But even then, I still hadn't looked at his augments. So when you asked for that, I read through the ones he has. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. And it's really good when you're doing, high endurance runs or you're just doing, it was really helpful when I was running with formaing and MR grinding stuff with other people, on Akkad and Hydron. Because I was able to pop that when I had that skill able, and I had that mod in when I had enough, drain for it to put it back in as I was going through the forma process. And it was really nice because it kept, us alive more, which means less chance for affinity loss, which was fantastic. So I really appreciate it. But as I finished that build, we turned around and I tried to put together a build for an Eidolon hunt. And I have 2 mods that are in not matching slots because there's not enough, wiggle room to move stuff around. So I'm actually ending up having to add an extra forma into it, and I'm going to do that later today to kind of help with that because I ran out of drain on my Eidolon hunting build. And my Eidolon hunting build is really subpar because of those the polarity spots. Because I wasn't able to, put them in, different loadout spots and stuff like that. And it's just super annoying for me. I was getting I went on a very long rant last night about it as we were doing Eidolon hunts about how I was so pissed off that I couldn't, one of my builds was lackluster and sucking because I didn't have what I needed.
Yeah, that was something I've kind of noticed as I've looked at some of the Eidolon builds. The better Eidolon builds definitely seem to come from the real number crunchers that really push the limits of their builds. And it does seem like a common practice I've seen that directly is what you're complaining about, is they'll over-forma it because it's going to need to have builds that are on the wrong polarity.
Yeah, and you're going to have to bump up that. I mean, it's going to cost more drain to do it. So if you're talking a maxed prime flow, or any maxed prime mod that's full 10 out of 10 drain, set up for levels, that's going to put so much extra drain just to put that on a non-matching spot.
Well, obviously you would put that on a matching slot.
Well,
What I'm talking about is like the Eidolon hunting build obviously would have come later for some of these types of players because they've been around for so long. So when they go to make their Eidolon build, the polarities don't really line up to the ideal things that they need.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid messing up their older builds, you know, where like let's say we'll use Volt as an example. Let's say like the sweet spot for Volt was 4 forma. Well, now because you're trying to add on these mods that weren't relevant for like sorties, but now they are relevant for Eidolon hunting. Now you're going to have, we'll say, 2 mods that aren't going to be on the correct polarity slot. So they'll drop an extra forma in so that doesn't throw it off too bad. But that seems, I mean, they didn't come out and say that, but like, you know, when you watch like some of them flip through their builds and you see the ones sitting there with that red mark that just triggers me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really pisses me off. I'm like, it's such a simple, and I'm not a game designer. I don't know how much coding would be needed to go into that, but for me, I think that would just be so nice to be able to have different forma on different loadout. And of course, I would be willing to put in the time to get more forma to do it. Like DE, yeah. I will buy plat just for forma if I don't have enough blueprints, or buy them for relics, or like, I don't know, I would do it. Instead of buying another frame. Sorry.
I kind of just did that for Korra. Like, you know, most frames only get, you know, what, like 2 to 4 forma, and I put 8 on Korra because Venari needs it as well. And with the with the exalted weapons getting mod slots, we're going to be investing more forma there. So more forma, clearly, as far as DE is thinking, more forma is not necessarily putting people off.
Yeah, like I don't think so.
That's not something that they're worried about. So I say, you know, maybe if there is a way to figure that out, because, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
because the problem is going to be people who already have the builds set up the way they want. Like they've over formatted and they've done whatever they need to make all 3 of those builds fit in their 3 loadout slots.
Yeah.
They're not going to benefit from that change at all. In fact, some of them are going to outright say that they're being punished for doing it.
Yeah,
so I feel like it's almost too late at this point to make a sweeping change like that. I actually think the better fix, well, maybe not better, but I think the potential better fix is adding in your other idea.
Oh, the dual polarity?
Where you could get a second type of forma, like exalted forma or Orokin forma, whatever you want to call it, and that adds a second polarity to a slot. And you can't benefit from both, obviously, because it's only one slot still, but you could swap out the mod and you'd still have the benefit of the matching polarity. I think that is the easier fix as far as on DE's end, because that isn't going to screw anybody over.
Yeah, and I mean, that is like readily available to enter. I mean, you just create it. I mean, obviously you'd have to go through the balance stuff, and we've kind of touched on that before, but I don't know. It really hit me this week with Volt. I was getting kind of frustrated trying to put something together to do it. And it was just one of those things. I just got kind of frustrated a little bit, and I am actually going to end up having to do the OVA formatting a little bit because I have to put 1 more dash polarity in, because 2 out of the 3 builds use a dash in that one spot, and my 3rd build doesn't have it, so I'm just going to have to eat the extra drain on that build and kind of make up where I can, but I will actually
You don't have another dash mod that you could just move over into that spot?
No, the only dash mod on that build right now, it's the speed build that I'm using, which I'm using what I have right now, you know, mod wise, because I am missing a couple prime mods and stuff. But the only mod that I have, I think I only have like 1 dash polarity, and it's already in the or dash mod that I'm using, and it's already in the other dash polarity. I have to form a second one on to kind of help out with the back 2 builds, which is my 4 build and my Eidolon hunting build.
I would look at potentially just modding a different slot.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that's not the only slot you have left, right?
No,
so I would try to mod for another one where maybe you could get like maybe an extra V and you could line up the V's.
Well, that's it. I've already looked at that, and dash is the only one, and it's 2 out of 3 builds. So it's the only one that I have that matches. I don't have one that's the same polarity on all 3 that's in an empty slot, or that I can move to an empty slot. It's a puzzle. So maybe if I get different mods and look at maybe taking a hit somewhere else to use something different, I can do it. But I'm going to have to look way more into that on all of my available mods that I have, and not available mods that I need to grind or something.
I don't know. I think there's a way to line up with this specific example. I do think there's a way to line it all up, because surely there is another mod slot. Because like they don't have to be in the same location.
Yeah.
So surely there's a way we could juggle this so that whatever what is the polarity for the other 2 slots?
Dash. Oh, the other ones that I have forma?
No, the dash one. You said there were on the other build. It's the same on the other 2.
Yeah, I have on my idle and hunting build. I have a dash polarity open that I'm going to forma on, and it's the same spot on on my 4 build that has a dash polarity. It's my speed build. I don't have another dash polarity to put there to make the forma worth it for all 3 builds. It's only going to be good for 2 of them, but it's going to be the more important 2. I don't see myself running the speed build, because if I'm going to go to the Plains of Eidolon and I want to be quick about it, I'm going to take Nova. Just being honest. And I'm going to use her portal build.
I'm going to take Zephyr, and I'm just going to fly.
That's fair. I could take Zephyr too. But yeah, that was my big gripe. And I know, Jeremy, you actually were working on some more forma this week, weren't you? Didn't you do Banshee?
Yeah, I just got my Banshee up just a little bit. I still need to finish... well, I guess I've got the Syndicate ranked up high enough. Now I just need more standing so I could buy her augments, and then I've got 2 forma in her now, but I don't have any of her augment mods, so I'm probably
so you need those first.
I'm probably gonna need a 3rd, maybe 4. I've been told 4 for her is good, so
yeah.
We'll see. I'm still really short on primed mods, so I imagine that's probably a big reason why I can shave off 1 forma for most of my builds.
Yep,
except Nidus.
Yeah, except for Nidus.
There's so many on Nidus.
Yep, yeah, that's also been something we're working on with getting those ducats up, because we know we're getting ever so closer to Barrow Katir being here.
I'm at 5K, little over.
I just broke 1K again, and he's going to be here next weekend. I need to resist buying, because I know I can buy everything 10 a week.
You don't though. If he has something that you were going to buy, then you're just getting it earlier.
Yeah, but the problem is I don't know what his full inventory is, so I just keep buying things that look cool.
It's on the wiki.
Yeah, I know I'm lazy. Let's just be honest, I'm lazy.
Yeah, but someone wasn't lazy. There is somebody out there who put a Google spreadsheet of everything Barrow has ever sold together.
Oh my god, you're my new favorite.
Yeah, whoever that is, you are doing the Lotus's work.
Yes, you are doing Space Mom's work, and I forever am endeared with you. So we did get to go, and we tried Sanctuary Onslaught this week too, which was kind of fun now that we've got some of our more builds up. Which I guess some people can consider it sort of end game. And that's kind of been something that we've been struggling with. I know both of us have, and I'm sorry if you've been watching our streams and you get kind of bored, because what we've been working on recently is just getting some of our frames built, because we're kind of behind the curve from the higher MR players that have all of their builds set on all of their frames and are working on second frame builds and stuff like that. But I mean, Jeremy and I come from a big MMO background, and Jeremy and I actually sat down and talked about this yesterday about how for us it's breaking the mindset that once the forma is done on a frame, that they're done and we move on to another character, onto another frame. This
is actually why I played Nidus so much yesterday. I know we weren't streaming, but I played a lot of Nidus yesterday. Mm-hmm. The biggest reason for that is I got his forma finished. I got his special augment, and he's even future-proofed. I have a couple of the builds that I had looked at for him used some Prime mods, so I actually over-format him so that once I get those Prime mods, I don't need to forma. I can just drop it straight in.
Oh, I've totally done that before. No shame.
I'll still need to do it for the HEMA, which, side note, might be my favorite weapon.
Really?
I love that thing. I love it. It's so powerful.
I just don't have enough I have the blueprint. I just haven't built it yet.
Yeah.
Again, lazy. Don't have enough mutant samples.
But yeah, I forced myself to play him because I got his build where I want it, and I just kind of felt like he was done. And he's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, frame in the game. And I just was like, there, he's done. And I kind of just wanted to like put him on a little shelf so I could admire him.
Yeah.
And that's been sort of a weird process because I feel the same way about Korra. And, you know, I kind of like, I don't know, I need to break that mindset that they're finished, because now they're, in some people's eyes, like now they're finally usable.
Yeah, exactly.
But for some reason, and it might just be because once we figured out forma, we put a ton of work into formatting in the last 3 weeks. We've really hit that hard. So now that stuff is getting finished up, I'm like, yay, it's done. And done is not the right word, but that's how it stuck in my head for whatever reason. So
yeah, I think a good thing that I'm going to challenge myself this week and like in the future, like moving forward, is once I have their build set and the formas in and they're where I want them to be, I'm not going to use the word they're done, they're ready.
They're ready. Yeah.
They're ready.
That's a good way to
Yeah,
put
I thought that would be a really good way to look at that, because like I said earlier, like leading into this, is we went into Elite Sanctuary Onslaught and we were taking our better built frames. And I mean, yeah, we were running a 4-stack and we had a Saren with us and we had a Volt at the time who was on that 4 build. So yeah, you could say we were getting carried. They were doing a lot of it. But at the same time, even though we weren't doing the kills, we were still popping spores and everything. And I mean, we were making it, we could have easily gone past zone 10. We just stopped at zone 10 and then we stopped at zone 8. Because that was the full AABC and we wanted to like tweak some things and bring in different frames, but we were holding our own, and that is what I need to think of. So I think this week, going into our streaming and what we're going to kind of plan to do this week, is I really think we're actually going to start looking at doing like Kuva Fortress and Kuva missions and duoing Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, and really like looking at the endurance runs and kind of pushing that a little bit. And we might not be running meta builds and we might not be running meta frames, but I really kind of want to push into that so that I can break that mindset.
Yeah, I do too. Like, now that we're ready to start the harder content, I definitely kind of want to like lean into it a little bit, like really kind of take a look at, you know, how far can we push with this build? Because the other thing is, that's going to show us the problems in the build, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like my Nidus, you know, I have 2 builds. I've got my Endless build, which is the one where he's all about stacks. And then I've got a build that I mostly 1-for-1 copied. I haven't really changed it yet from MC Gamer's. He calls it Mom's Spaghetti. And I, of course, call it MC Gamer's Spaghetti. Or MC's Spaghetti.
Yeah, it's mixed sketty.
Mixed sketty, yeah.
Mixed sketty.
Because, and that's the one that uses his special augment. So when you fire off Squid Baby, you hit it again and it explodes. You don't gain any stacks that way, but it's really good for quick runs. Anyway, tangent. But, you know, we get into like, let's go do a survival and let's try to stay in for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Well, 20 minutes in, Nidus is dying constantly. Like, oh shit, I need to change something. This build isn't working. You know, and, you know, do it a couple of times, make sure that that is the issue, and it's not me, it's not bad positioning, it's not, you know, that bombard is standing behind me like, you got mighty fine infestation there, boy. Like, you know, because they do that. They'll say that to you. You just listen real close.
Yeah, I love that you said positioning, because I haven't really thought of this game having positioning before, honestly, because like all of the spawns are random within so many in-game meters from you as you go through that I guess I'd never really think of positioning in this as in like the same type of positioning I think of for like doing raids or playing Overwatch or something like that. So I guess I could kind of see positioning being a thing there.
And I think the positioning, like the requirements, they change a lot depending on what frames you take.
Yeah, do you want to be like in someone's face, or do you want to be behind the other frames and let them face tank it and you're more the supporty stuff? Right,
like, or, you know, for instance, am I on Nidus and you're on Mag, so both of our kits involve sucking enemies together and then doing AoE damage. We probably don't want to be in the same room facing the same direction.
I know, right?
We probably want to be in a hallway on 2 separate ends of the hallway, so we have our back to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm protecting this direction, you're protecting that direction. Or, you know, in a big room around like a life support, I've got these 2 doors, you've got the other 2 doors. You know, basically like hold out with those 2. I think that would be really effective, with one exception. And that's Mag is squish and needs to always be moving.
Yes, Mag is squish. Mag is so squish.
You're going to get one shot at like the half hour mark, they're going to start really hitting you if you aren't on the run.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we've said it before too about like when you find a build that you really, or like you look up somebody's build, and I'm just like Jeremy. I use a lot of MC Gamer's builds. I think he does a great job. So keep it up, dude. I love your builds.
Yep.
And I love that they're not, at least for Volt's sake, they're not the most meta build. Oh, insert thunder here.
Yeah. Enjoy the rainy mood background. It is a very light storm today. So
yes, it is storming.
If you hear what sounds like white noise, it's actually rain.
Yeah, it's actually thundering and thundering.
It's not me heavy breathing on the mic while Rebecca talks.
It's not. But anyway, I was looking at MC Gamer's Volt build, and I was using his Eidolon build, like hunting build, as kind of like a base thing. And his is actually not very meta, but it's set up to be running Eidolons alone, which I thought was really cool, because 9 times out of 10 he says he's usually running them alone or he's running them with pubs, and he's not running, like, if he's running meta groups, it's completely different. So I really appreciated that. But this is also a good test, and I can't stress this enough. Their builds are fantastic. I know Brozyme does builds, like a bunch of people do builds, and they are awesome, and they are super strong, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to fall in love with it. But another thing to consider is your playstyle. I know as much as I like to think that like to build for meta, I also like get kill thirsty, and I like to kind of show how strong I am. So I might jump around a little bit more than I should and not, stay in the back lines as much as I should. So 9 times out of 10, I always have to put a little extra health. So doing those endurance runs and stuff will really let us look at those builds and see what works for us.
Yeah.
And change them that way, which I'm super excited with, because, you can have the best build, but if you don't know how you're playing or what you're doing, then it's not really going to help that much. You're still going to die.
Yeah, I've found myself looking at a lot of Life of Rio's builds, because he does a lot of those extended runs. Like that seems to be where he gets the majority of his enjoyment from. So and he, much like MC Gamer, he does tend to build a little bit on the tanky side.
Yeah.
Survivability, because when you're in a run for 8 hours, at a certain point it stops mattering how tanky you are, because you're going to get one shot no matter what happens. But the process of getting there, you do need a little bit of armor or a little bit of health. So he tends to balance it a little more in the meta favor than like MC Gamer, who, I almost never see Rio run with like primed vigor.
I love
MC
vigor.
Gamer uses primed vigor a lot.
It's a good mod.
It is a good. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying,
love that mod.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, he does tend to build.
Yeah.
MC Gamer's a little tankier than Rio, but Rio still has a little bit of that because he's going so much farther, in those extended endurance runs. So it's the sweet spot, of course, is build for one, transition into the other, and then kind of backslide a little bit so you get that comfort zone that's like right for you.
Yep. And speaking of finding your comfort zone and kind of finding out how you play, I am so excited. I actually got to try out Wukong this week and actually play him. Holy crap. So I can see why people don't like him, because he is kind of boring. But if I ever wanted a frame where I could just hit a skill and then not do any other skill and use my weapons, Wukong is the man, and he never dies. I haven't done a build on him. I haven't done any forma on him yet. But even then, at rank 30, doing MR and forma runs and stuff like that with other people while I was, ranking him up, I never died. And it's awesome. So I highly recommend that that everybody, tries a frame first, or tries something before they kind of shove it off, because Wukong honestly could probably become one of my favorite frames for solo stuff if I didn't want to die.
That's really interesting. I would say if having a frame with a lot of almost passive skills, if that makes sense, if that is enough to get people to say Wukong is boring, then I don't know why people, and maybe it is different people, but I would think that you would also need to lump Inaros and Rhino into that group.
Yeah, that's fair. They're kind of passive.
Inaros' 4 is incredibly passive, especially with his augment. And his 1 skill is just it's a blind. It's a good blind. And then, his 2 and his 3 are just more CC. Like his 1, 2, and 3 skills, they're just CC. They're all good. They all have their own purpose. But he's a little bit more passive. You're going to use your guns a lot more. Necros is very popular. But Necros really, like, his 3 is just a second passive.
Yeah, exactly.
Despoil. It's just another passive for him. His 1 is widely considered by the vast majority of the game to be incredibly useless. I like it just because it's funny. You punch someone so hard their soul comes out, but it's not that good. And his 2 is a fear, which it's good and it has its uses. I'm not saying it's useless, but it's his kit is a lot more passive. You're going to rely a lot more on his weapons. Mm-hmm. Rhino, Rhino's charge is good, but you take Rhino for the 2 and the 3, which is Iron Skin, and then the 3 is the damage up for the party, and then 4 is just a CC stomp. And granted, if the enemies are below like level 30, the stomp's just going to kill him outright. But still, when you're playing him, you're going to use your weapons a lot more than your skills. So, I feel like even though I'm one of the people that was repeating this, I feel like Wukong sort of gets the short end of the stick.
I know, right?
No pun intended.
Because you can make a stick longer.
I mean, he at least has an exalted weapon, which is more than anything. The other 3 frames I just listed.
Yeah, exactly. So I am completely relooking at a bunch of different weapons, and we've been working on getting our dojo research set up, and I've been, keeping my eye on stuff that I can buy to definitely try new stuff, because contrary to what, opinions are opinions, and go farm your own, because there are several people that say that frames are super, super strong and a lot of fun that I find incredibly boring, and some people say they suck, and I love them. So case in point, Atlas.
Moving right along with that same train of thought, I really hate Octavia.
That is so sad. I thought you would really like her.
I did too, but and this goes along with the Wukong thing, she's so passive. And it's weird because it's like her 1 and her 2 and her 4 are fire and forgets, right?
Yep.
And then her 3 requires so much of you. And the problem that I have, it's the same reason I can't play Guitar Hero, is I listen for the beat of the music. It's actually really tough for me to ignore the beat of the music and time it with when those rings hit her feet. Mm-hmm. So I never get any of her abilities.
Yeah, and if you have any ping, that could change that as well.
The only time I ever benefit from Octavia's invisibility is when I just happen to slide through one.
Slide through it.
Yeah, I never actually do it when I'm playing her. It's so terrible. I've got to just time a slide or a bullet jump just right to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm really sad. I wanted to like her because, the musician in me wants to use the soma chord and come up with some really cool beats, but I just can't get into her.
Yeah, I found her kind of boring, honestly. I just got bored playing her. So
now I can say from watching you do it, I would actually really recommend her to newer players, which is funny because you got quite a bit of work before you could get her. But
yes.
She made a complete joke about every single relay you went to.
Oh my god, yes. She is
every one of them.
I took her on every single relay, even if I didn't play her at all when I was on the planet. I took her to the relays because I would just pop Mallet and I would pop her little companion cube thing, and I would just hide behind a corner while it went and killed itself and then fire some pot shots with the Tenora, and then I would go be done.
I think the only one that got you was Saren because she comes right out of the gate with a sniper rifle.
Yep, she insta-killed me like 4 times and I was super pissed.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with you. She just got you before you could cast the skills.
Yeah, she got me while I was tossing them out. It was bullcrap. So yeah, well, this week there were a lot of news, but actually not a lot of news, because it all seemed to focus around one thing, and that is Sacrifice. So if you haven't seen it yet, they actually released a teaser trailer that on it said June 2018, so it is coming this month, which is prior to TennoCon. I'm so excited.
Because we were right.
Yes, we were. Hashtag got it right. But yeah, so the trailer was actually really, really cool. It didn't show too much. It showed some it showed the players, the ones that won that contest, to get on, which I didn't know when this contest happened, but
Yeah, I have no idea.
and all of them were MR25 and had played for like thousands upon thousands of hours. So damn, I aspire to be you one day, and I will eventually, hopefully. But it showed a bunch of that, and then it showed a lot of like the lead up quests, it feels like. But I don't know, it got me super pumped and I'm super excited. And then they added the Sacrifice part of the website, which if you haven't visited that, definitely do. And definitely click on Lua and Ballas's eyes, because they have like little Easters hidden in there where he says some really awesome stuff that has some really interesting lore implication at this point. People are trying to figure out where it is, but it's Lua brings you strength, but you cannot defy your creator, which is really cool. And also part of that was the Total Biscuit tribute, which was the primed tea set, which is my favorite.
Yeah, I like it.
It's so cute. I have it sitting right next to where you can kneel in the orbiter room.
Oh, cool.
Like in my little personal quarters. It's just sitting right there.
I've seen a lot of posts on the Reddit of like, there's one of the Italian sculptures, you can actually flip it upside down and it becomes like a table with these hovering like pendulum legs.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you put the tea set on top of it. It looks like a little hovering table. It's really cool.
Oh, that's so cute. I've seen a lot where they have the tea set sitting down and they invite someone to their orbiter and they're both meditating in front of it. And that's really cute. I've seen a lot of those. And also there was a tweet out by Rebecca Ford that was basically just her saying soon a bunch.
Soon.
Which everybody is thinking is for the Sacrifice. And then this just came out over this weekend. If you haven't seen it, at E3, which is this weekend, the PC Gaming Show, which is one of the final E3 events going on Monday, June 11th, which is tomorrow. So if you're listening to this during the week, it's already happened, so you know what happens. They're releasing the final Sacrifice trailer, and it's going to be released at 6 p.m. Eastern. So I'm thinking the Sacrifice could possibly launch this week or next week. I don't know. What do you think?
I will say next week.
You think next week?
I want it to be this week. I would love for, you said Megan is the one that's going to be there?
Yes, Megan is the one that's going to be there.
I would love for the trailer to play, that Megan look right at the camera with that look that she's always given in her pictures on the Twitter and say, enjoy this tomorrow.
I know, right?
That would be amazing.
Suddenly red text appears and it says hotfix going in now, but it's not a hotfix, it's the Sacrifice.
Right, yeah, but I would guess probably the following week.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I want it this week so
I
bad.
do too, so bad.
Oh my god, I want to know. And I want a scarf. I don't care about Umbra. I just want the scarf. Just give me it. Give me that scarf.
Scarf Prime.
I know, right? And especially would go really good with the new leak that came out this week. So I saw the post originally on Facebook, and then it went down, and I didn't see it, and I had to find like a bad picture of it later on a comment. It was like hiding somewhere on someone's like a comment that someone posted, but it was a picture of Limbo Prime from console, and like I said, it was a leak, and I saw them get taken down, but everybody's talking about it. So you can see Limbo Prime. He looks dapper and gold and bright. It wasn't the greatest resolution, so you couldn't really see like the details of what his what his skin looks like or anything like that for the frame. But you can see him hold what looks like a rapier, and you can see on his hip there is a pistol. So, of course, the community is all sorts of speculative of what those are. So it looks like we might be getting a primed rapier.
Everybody keeps saying it's the Desra rapier, confirmed, but I will remind you all, there are 2 rapiers.
Yeah, I think it's just because the handle of it looks like the Desra. The Desra's one is more ornate.
Yeah, sure. But this is the original Orkin weapon, so maybe the other one was more ornate originally, and the Desra is like a copy of that, but it's not necessarily, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, but it looks like a rapier, and then the pistol has had a lot of speculation. The first I saw was that it was the Piranha, and then you said earlier you found something else that people were saying it was.
Well, I've seen a lot of people say that it's the Piranha, and then there's inevitably followed by a comment saying that the Afona Prime is actually Piranha's Prime version, because it's a pistol that's also a shotgun. So that makes sense to me.
I can kind of see that the Piranha and the Afona Prime are close, but they all are also completely different. I mean, in their style.
Yeah, they're kind of both. Like, they're both pistol shotguns, right? Like,
yeah.
That that's still, I mean, you can't really deny that. But there's, I mean, if it was the Piranha Prime, I feel like they would have just called it that. So I'll leave them room to go back on this. But the other one I keep seeing people bring up is the Magnus.
Yes, which I have not used the regular Magnus, so I don't really know what
either.
it is.
Yeah.
At this point.
The only thing I know is that if you don't install the game through Steam on PC, that Magnus and Ak Magnus are about the only Tennogen skins you can get.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple weapons. There's no frames.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the only reason I even knew Magnus was in the game.
Because of the Tennogen when you first downloaded it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, so there's a lot of speculation. So hopefully we'll find this out soon, but it does look like it's not confirmed. Like I said, it was a leak, so we have no idea, but it does look like Limbo Prime is going to be in there. And they did see on there that his MR requirement is MR4. So kind of low, but definitely, yeah, if it's true. But of course, if you get the Prime access and you buy it, it negates the MR requirement for you. So no idea. I didn't see anything, like I said, about the weapons. It was all conjecture based off that picture. But it got me kind of excited, actually, for Limbo. But it has sparked such a huge discontent on the internet right now about get ready for Limbos in matches. So I didn't know if you wanted to kind of talk about that here.
I'm sure if any of you frequent the Reddit or the Facebook or any of
the official forums.
Yeah, the official forums, yeah, anywhere that, people can freely talk about Warframe related stuff. There is posts saying rip pub games. There's a lot of memes using the new Han Solo poster, the Solo story, except it's all Warframe, like Limbo related stuff, because now you're going to have to go,
only playing solo.
And the other thing you'll find is guides. Like, for the love of God, if you're thinking of trying Limbo, please read this first.
I like the name of that. That's a good one.
Yeah, so, and I don't know. This is good. Like, the other thing that's good for this is I want to play Limbo, but I don't want to be a bad Limbo, because the problem with bad Limbos is you can never tell if they're trolling you or if they're just bad. And I don't want to confuse people like that, even if I'm playing, just with a couple of people. Because I like him in theory. I just don't really care much for the execution. But a lot of that's because I haven't put a lot of work into figuring out how he needs to work. And I've only tried one build.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But, yeah, so some of these guides, like, I don't know, I think you found a pretty funny, like a guide that tends to swing towards the funnier stuff.
Yes, right? It was posted on the Reddit, and I don't have the original link. Let me see if I can find it here really fast.
Okay, well, I'll just jump in then while you're doing that. So
go on ahead.
The one I found, it breaks down Limbo into 3 parts. It's the good, the annoying, and how to go about leveling him. And this was posted by Vizot.
Cool.
Vizot. Just so you know I'm not stealing your work here. But he kind of touches on, like, he's like, here's these 3 bullet points of why Limbo is so annoying. And he goes into, stasis freezes projectiles and enemies when they're in the rift, which I've seen used to very good effect. Like, you'll pop a bunch of enemies into the rift, and you'll freeze them with stasis, and then you'll run around with, like, the Tigris or the Soma Prime, and you'll just pump, like, 100 bullets into each one of them, and then unfreeze stasis, and everything around you dies, and it's glorious. But if your party members are in the rift with you, they're not able to help. Like, they can use melee still, but they, let's say they're, running around there, you're on a defense mission, you're on Hydron, and you're trying to level, and you've got this Limbo, that's really gonna frustrate you.
Side note there, really quick, just a tip that we found on another post, and this one was posted by elbarto227, is that, just so you guys are aware, and I was actually not aware of this until I saw this, that Warframe abilities ignore the rift mechanic. So if you're playing a Mesa and they try to stasis it, or any sort of that, any Warframe abilities will negate that for you. just so you're aware.
Yeah, so if you're inside of the Cataclysm and they pop stasis, you can still unload with your Peacebringers.
Yep. Which is always really good.
Yep. Same with Excalibur with his Exalted Blade, Ivara with her Exalted Bow.
Yep, any Warframe build.
There's plenty of ways around that. Now, if you're in the Void and your target's not in the Void, that I don't believe is affected.
I do not think you still
need
them.
to do your roll to get out of the Void.
Yep.
Or the Rift. I keep saying Void. We were doing this on the stream the other night.
I know, right? Yep. So yeah. What other tips are on there to kind of be good?
Another one
annoying.
that's just like a highlight on the annoying part is casting Cataclysm in bad spots. Don't cast Cataclysm over terminals that need hacked, or something like that, because you'll lose it.
Yep, you won't be able to
interact with it until Cataclysm goes away. And if you're one of those people that does max range with max duration, then Cataclysm will last 30 seconds before it goes away. So you definitely have to be mindful of what your build is.
Yep. Don't be that guy. Awkward silence is awkward.
So one of the things that they bring up as far as being good at Limbo is a low range. Low range with high duration is really effective for defense missions, because you can keep your Cataclysm on the point, but it's only on the point.
That's smart, yeah. Small bubble just to protect that.
Using Hydron as an example, you've just got that little orb, I don't know, it's like an egg thing sitting in the middle of the room. You could just drop your bubble on that and it'll stay pretty much just on that. So all the Grineers shooting at it, well, they're shooting at nothing because it's in the rift. So, but you don't have this great big one that fills half the map and really screws up all the players around you.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. They also make mention of players using him in Eidolon hunts. I would love to know how. Because he's so squishy, I would feel like I would just die immediately. I was dying on Harrow last night,
Yeah.
I can't imagine surviving on Limbo. But I'm also curious, what does he bring to an Eidolon hunt? If anybody knows, send us an email or a tweet or something. Let us know, because we've gotten a lot of interesting and a lot of really good feedback that's definitely piqued my interest in Limbo. But Eidolon hunts, that just seems to me here's the list of frames that I'd take, here's the list of frames that I might take, and here's Limbo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would never, the way that I see him working, I would not take him. But clearly there's a reason for it, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. And you can't banish the Eidolon now, so that's out.
The other thing that they mentioned that I've seen this firsthand is mobile defense. He's really solid because he can pick it up and then he's invulnerable while he's in the defense. He can just drop his low range Cataclysm on it once you plug it in. And rescue, because he can actually banish the rescue target to the rift and they won't take a single point of damage.
Oh, and they'll just still follow you?
They'll still follow.
Hell yeah, I didn't even think about that.
But they're completely invulnerable as long as they're in the rift. And if you go around banishing a ton of enemies, then they're going to be able to shoot the target. So obviously you just want to do him in that situation. But yeah, that's an option for him, is banish the capture, or not the capture, excuse me, the rescue target. Yeah. I definitely challenge anybody
that is worried about being with Limbos during this time. Is especially if you're on PC, there's chat. You could always ask, hey, can you stop banishing me? And if they keep doing it, then they're obviously a troll. And they probably have been trolling on Limbo forever. Even if before he was Prime just gives them a good excuse. But I bet a lot of them are going to be people like Jeremy or myself who don't really know how to use him yet. So when in doubt, if you get put in the rift, just roll. Just, double tap that sprint button. Or if you have it, somewhere else, just roll out of it. Now, if they're purposely dropping that stasis bubble on you for Cataclysm, or they're following you around dropping it, then yeah, they're a troll and it's annoying, but you would still be encountering those today. It's just now they're shinier because they're a Prime and maybe a little bit stronger, and that's about it.
And I do think that assuming there's no rework, because there is usually a rework that accompanies the primes before they come out. So there could be a rework going on, but, assuming that there isn't one, it is important to, I do think that more people are going to come out of the woodwork. People who, maybe they got bored of trolling on Limbo. Well, now there's a new Limbo, so they're going to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're going to last that long. If they got bored of trolling on Limbo, they're probably only going to get this Limbo to 30, and then they're going to put him right back on the shelf. So
yeah.
I've seen a lot of people that I think are overreacting, that are just saying, well, rip this game. I'm just going to play solo for the rest of the year. I don't think it's going to be that long. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that long at all. So,
and this is saying full well that two of the people that I play with the most have both told me that they're the best Limbo trolls in the world, and one of them showed it, and wow, I was tilted by the end of the night on
yeah, I know, right?
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, my blood was boiling. And no offense to him, I'm not I'm not being a jerk, no hard feelings, but in the moment, I was just like, "Oh, are you kidding me? Stop it!" So, yeah. I'm not one of those people that's immune to being triggered by Limbo.
Yep.
And he proved this to me on Friday. So I'm not just telling you to suck it up because it doesn't bother me. It bothers me just fine. But I think it's something that we're gonna have to get through.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's assuming they don't. And somebody actually pointed out a really, really fantastic tweak that's just enough so that Limbo suddenly isn't so trolly.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
And
what is
it's two parts.
Okay.
And it is very straightforward. It's not a lot of work here, but basically what they're saying is. Makes stasis no longer affect your party's weapon.
And that's the one that slows time, right?
That's the one that stops time so that your teammates' bullets don't travel, basically. Their guns don't work when they're in stasis. So what this would do is this would make it feel more like Gara's wall. Players can shoot in and out of Gara's wall. And that didn't make Gara's wall any better or worse. Like it's not super OP because they could do that. So let players, let stasis not affect player weapons.
I like that idea if it contributes to it. So like if I were playing Limbo and I had like a big bad in stasis, they were in it, they could shoot and stack more bullets around it. So we could all literally make a wall of bullets that are going to hit this thing. And then when we all pop stasis and everything hits it at once and kills it. Yeah. But being able to shoot in it, I think would be cool. Let them add to that bullet hell or projectile hell, grenade hell, and whatever it is.
And then going along with that is allow players to damage enemies that are on the other side of the plane. Even if it's at like a 50% damage reduction.
Ooh, so like if I were being a troll and I banished just you to the rift, and I'm following you around banishing you constantly, allow you to still damage stuff outside of the rift, but at like a 50% half damage reduction or something.
Right, some kind of damage penalty because you're on the wrong side of the plane, you're the wrong side of the rift, but I'm not completely useless in wasting bullets or wasting all this stuff. Like. It's just it still gives the advantage to Limbo of having this rift mechanic. You're not invalidating the rift mechanic, but it allows the players to be a little less affected by this vitriol that's going around with these Limbos that think this is funny.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, if you do this, then the Limbos, like it's sort of like, when a bully is like teasing you and you laugh along with his jokes, you've kind of taken the power away from him. I say jokes, but it's usually not jokes. But still, when someone's making fun of you and you own whatever they're making fun of, then it's not really their, So this is kind of the same thing. You're kind of taking that power away from the trolls because, I'm doing less damage, but I'm still doing damage, which is more than you're doing because you're just following me around, banishing me.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think, like, obviously it's never going to completely go away. The way Limbo is built, unfortunately, it's just going to attract that type of person. I do believe that. But this would definitely help, like, mitigate that, Like, I think it would slow it down a lot. And, I think this could even be helpful. because, we talked about mag being really squishy earlier, so I could banish you, and then, you're doing reduced damage, but while you're in the rift, you actually gain energy.
Yep.
So you could hop into the rift, you're still contributing to the damage, even at a reduced value, but you're still contributing while you're in there, and then, you just wait for banish to be over, because it does have a duration, or you just roll right out of it once you're topped off.
Yep.
I think it would actually take Limbo from being a trolley frame to being much more supportive, which I think is what they were trying to do with this whole rift mechanic. Maybe they tuned it a little too severely.
Yeah, and that would definitely help too. Like, you see a player's having some trouble, banish them to the rift, let them regen their health, let them do a little bit reduced damage, but it lets their shield recharge. It can let them do a couple, like, heal dashes, or drop a healing item that they need to, drop a healing pizza, or something like that, and come back. So on the point of these, I did find it. It's by JM Assassinators, and it looks like he posted a clip from somebody else's guide. So I don't know if this is his original guide or if it's somebody else's. So if this is yours, definitely let me know so I can give you the credit for it. But it's a gentleman's guide to Rift ethics. And these are 4 rules of any Limbo player. So as you are going to be playing Limbo once Limbo Prime comes out, if you're a new player or an old player, or you haven't played him in a while, make sure these are some rules to keep in mind. So rule number 1, a Limbo should not banish an ally except if he explicitly asks for it or accepts an offer for you to banish him. If you banish an ally by accident, do apologize and mention that he can roll out of the rift by double tapping shift. So when Jeremy was playing and MRing up Limbo to get him to 30, I got banished a couple times. He said sorry. I'm like, oh, I'm in the rift. He said sorry. I said no problem. I rolled out of it and we were fine. So if you accidentally do banish someone, or someone says you keep banishing me and you don't mean to, just apologize and say, hey, sorry, I'm learning. You can double tap out. I didn't mean to get you in that. So rule number 2, a Limbo should keep tidy, timely, and precise. When using banish, keep the rift clean by murdering every last enemy you bring in within as short a time span as possible. Don't leave the trash lying about, lest you may offend an ally by the presence of trash he cannot remove himself. So don't be that guy that goes in on a defense mission, and the very last enemy you need to kill, you banish him to the rift and run around in a circle and don't let anybody else in the rift because nobody else can hit him. Like, don't be that guy. Please. Just be nice. If you put something in the rift, take it back out, or, just don't do it. That would make me so mad if I'm chasing that fricker thing around and I can't get into the rift because you refuse to banish me. Yeah, no.
I've had a very similar experience with Nidus will put his link on the last target. It's always a Nox on Helene or Hydron. They'll put a link on it, and then you got to wait for that duration to end because, it still counts as an enemy, but you can't damage it.
I've seen that for Well of Life with Trinity. The Well of Life, the last one, which makes them super hard because you're supposed to hit them a lot and regen that damage that you do in health. And then they keep doing it, so you can't kill it because it puts it back up at full health. So yeah, don't be that guy. That is trolly. So if you're new to Limbo, that is something that you do not want to do. Rule number 3. A Limbo should consider time, even if he's a master of it. Using Cataclysm plus Stasis is a common tactic, but doing so leaves leaves allies forced to use their melee, thus they might get offended. A Limbo should realize this problem and keep Stasis on only for the absolute minimum amount of time at a time, so allies still get the satisfaction of seeing their bullets hit the marks. So don't be that guy that leaves Stasis up and Cataclysm and Stasis just so that their team can't do anything, and just keep them there. It goes back to those, those max range, max duration builds. Just be aware of your timing on that as you go into it. And rule number 4, a Limbo should know his tools and adjust them for the job at hand. Keep the Cataclysm adjusted for the minimal range capable of doing the job that needs doing, and apply rule number 3 in all places where relevant. So, if you're going and doing like those mobile defenses, you don't need max range for that to put everything in the rift. Or, keep in mind what map you're going to, because if you've been around a lot or you've been playing a lot of these different types of missions, you probably have a good idea of the different locations and the tile sets that have those types of items on them. So you have a good idea of how much range you really need. So don't overdo it. So yeah, that's the Limbo things that have been going on this week. I'm sure we'll see more people freaking out, more people, you know, getting angry or dreading it, and all of the I'm going to play solo, and all of the trolls saying, yes, finally an excuse to bring Limbo back out when people will least expect it. So keep that in mind going forward.
But I have to say, even with all of this, I'm excited about Limbo
I
Prime.
am super excited because I'm actually going to really try to like learn him this time around, I think.
I'm going to.
Yep.
I'm going to put some work into him.
I think he's going to be one of the ones that I really try to get good with. Cause
I think from one of the things I've seen, and they do, I have seen a lot of mention of this, is that he is super powerful for spy missions.
Yep.
And I do think like it would be really cool if Limbo ended up being like, that's where I found the most use for him, and he kind of became my stealth frame.
Yeah, that would be really interesting because he is sort of like a stealth frame, sort of.
Yeah.
A little bit. So yeah, so
and
there
I like alternatives to invisibility that are still stealth frames, and we actually have a really cool one coming up later that was a fan created one that sort of has that same concept behind it.
Stealth without stealth.
Stealth without invisibility, yeah. Because, you know, Banshee's the same way, and Banshee was one of the first primes that really kind of caught my eye. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, her passive is all of her weapons are silent. So you could go in, and I've done this, you could do a stealth mission with the Tigris Prime.
It is really funny to watch.
There's something really gratifying about blowing this guy away, you know, into several pieces with the Tigris, and the guy standing next to him didn't hear it.
Yep, didn't even notice.
Yeah, there's something really satisfying about that.
Yep. I don't know, I'm super excited. We still don't know when he's coming, but he will be coming eventually. So yeah, look forward to it soon, TM.
I think I guess kind of a related side note, isn't Burn Prime access ending soon? Is it this week?
I think it is this week. I don't remember the date exactly, but Zephyr Prime is going away. And as well, as of now, I'm pretty sure they are vaulted. I think they got vaulted, on the 9th? Or is it coming up as well? I think that at the same time that access is going down, we do have the Tigris Prime, the Galatine Prime, and there's one other.
Necros.
And Necros Prime are getting vaulted. Yep. So either hold on to those relics so you can farm them in a 4-stack and sell them and trade them for plat as it gets a little bit higher and they become more demanded as those relics run out. Or if you're like me and you want to make sure you get them beforehand, make sure you're going out and relic grinding to get those as soon as possible. Because I forgot it was Necros. I knew it was the Tigris and the Galatine, which I got this week, but I didn't know Necros Prime was... I forgot he's going away, so...
Yep.
I need to make sure that I get those relics and farm him, which is sad, because I just sold 2 of his systems for ducats.
It is the 19th.
The 19th. I knew there was a 9 in it.
Next Tuesday.
All right, so you guys have a week and a couple days from today, which is the 10th, to get that taken care of. So get them in while you can. And there was one more kind of news story this week. And it wasn't really a news story. It was more of a video that came out. And it was by Ars Technica. And it was the video of Rebecca and Steven answering some of what they called Warframe's mysteries. So I actually saw this linked on the Reddit, I think, or the Discord. One of the two. And it linked to this video, and I didn't know when this came out. I thought it might be old, but then I saw the pizza hat, and I know he's been wearing that a lot as he's been stressed going up into TennoCon. But it looks like they went through and answered a bunch of questions that were from fans, and it was really cool because they had Ortis asking all of them, and some of their answers were really great. So I picked out some of the really interesting ones that I think were really cool of stuff that's going to be coming up. The first one was about the Orokin, what really happened to the Orokin. Which was really kind of interesting. They made jokes that, they're all on holiday vacation and everything is fine, but actually nothing really good happened to them. And they did say that we're going to be learning more information as this kind of moves forward, which also links to one of the other questions they asked. They kind of teased a little bit more about the Orokin, and it ties to possibly the Sacrifice. So that is coming up. And then they got asked about what is the Void. The biggest thing that I thought that was really cool was they alluded to a couple different quests. So, the Hero quest alluding to what can happen if you're in the Void for too long. They, hinted at some of the Stalker lore that led to it. We know it's used in space travel on how we're getting places to places. And they said the Man in the Wall is another resource that would know what that is. And I think the most interesting thing out of all of this is that they said they plan to explore it more in the future, which makes me think that it's not directly and immediately tied to the Sacrifice, but also long term. So I think that there's just a lot more for us to learn about the Void, which makes me really excited. It's one of those things I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot coming out because we actually don't know where the story is going to go after the Sacrifice. They said the Sacrifice it's the end of the story they set out to tell. So, where's it going from here? Well, there's a lot of, like, I don't want to say holes in the lore, but a lot of stuff they could go back and really flesh out. And this is definitely one of the more interesting things that I would like to see fleshed out.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of, like, interesting things that I guess I wasn't even thinking about, they talked about, one of the questions about Maru. And what happens to the Aeton statues, or the Aeton statues, when you sell them to Maru? What does she do with them? And Rebecca had a really funny answer for this, that Maru actually goes back out and hides them back in the world for us to find again, so we always have a reason to come back to her. But
she would.
I know, right? This seems like such a Maru. Oh, Maru.
Oh, Maru.
I love it. But yeah, but then Rebecca kind of yelled at Steven because he kind of gave a spoiler, a little bit, sort of, about that the Aeton statues possibly could contain memories and snippets of time from the Orokin, which she called out as a Sacrifice spoiler.
Scolded by Space Mom for saying that.
I know. And she said it was spoiling all the things for the Sacrifice. So I'm really interested what that could be like, because we know when you get the Cephalon fragments, as you collect those, you can go back and you find that's a lot of Ortis lore, and it's all of Ortis's memories, which is really cool. So is this something like, I don't know, he said that it's going to be a change to the market of the statues and the implications of it. So I'm really, like, instantly, like, I don't have any statues right now, but now I really want to go out and try to, like, statue hunt today and this week to try to get as many statues as I can before Sacrifice comes out. Because, like, am I going to be able to listen to them?
That would be pretty cool.
That would be so cool. Oh my god. I really, like, am kind of sad that I sold all of mine now because I'm so intrigued of what this is. So another thing that came up was they talked about asked about the best Easter eggs in the game. And the two that they mentioned that they really liked was the Flappy Birds, Zephyr, and the Wormulus, the Worm Prime game, which I know we talked about last week being in there. And along the same line, they talked about that 2D fighter game, which is, they had to technically point out, as a 3D game that's just side-scroller, technicalities. And I'm pretty sure that's the same one that's going to be playable at TennoCon. They said they were going to have arcade cabinets set up for it.
I believe so, yeah.
Space Mom generously said that they actually plan to release that as the next mini-game in Warframe. And that they're actually also thinking about creating an in-game arcade cabinet for your Orbiter to keep all of those. So it might look like maybe Flappy Bird and Wormulus Prime might move off of being only available from the Prime, and maybe there's a way to get them someplace else, or maybe once you get those items, you get it and it gets saved to the arcade, which would be really cool.
And what's really cool about that to me is she's sort of like, there's been this rumor going around that I believe is because DE stated it was going to happen, or showed some artwork showing this or something. But that we're actually going to get another expansion to the Orbiter.
Ooh, I haven't seen this.
Because our ships are actually, like, I've seen the sketches of it, and our ships are actually freaking huge.
Yeah.
And the part of the ship that you actually take to the planet is just like the bridge of the ship. It detaches from the rest of it.
Oh, that's cool. Kind of like a Firefly kind of thing, like the pods.
Yeah, yeah, much like those pods. So I don't know how much of this is fan art at this point because it's been so long ago. But the way that Rebecca kind of alluded to this might be something going into the Orbiters, I wonder if this is going to actually match up with that. Like maybe that is part of the plan going forward. So I'm going to be keeping an eye because there's going to be these big high-level things everyone's excited about from TennoCon.
Yeah.
But keep an ear out for some news about the orbiter extensions.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Because that'd be cool.
That would be really neat. I guess I didn't know. I hadn't heard that they were like detachable pods from your ship. I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, if you look at the little part that we pop out in the bottom, like, there's no way that there's an entire ship in that, you know?
Right.
There's no way we all fit in that. And that makes sense why the little thing, when you go up to the navigation and where the market and the codex are, it makes sense why there's a door that comes down because it could lock in place.
Absolutely.
So that actually makes a lot more sense to me. I thought that was just a weird design thing to make it feel spacey, but...
Oh, it is.
Well, yeah, obviously, but there might be another reason for why.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's really cool. So I actually knew this but didn't know this, but a question got brought up about drop tables. So DE is still one of the only major games that I know of that I've actually ever really played that 100% posts their full drop tables for every single thing that drops in the game public at all times. So that is accessible on their website. You can look up the drop tables if you want to know how much of a chance this mod drops from this. There is a drop table that will tell you that. And it is completely 100%. They check it and everything. And they kind of talked about what brought that on, which is something that I didn't know. But the issue of data mining. Now, I've played MMOs. I've been around people that data mine before, and they retrograde, and they go in and try to find all the secrets and stuff like that. And I guess I never thought about it that, when they want to hide that type of stuff from data miners, most of the time I'm like, oh, I think it's spoilers. But I have, seen the talk of people that do data mine that are like, oh, well, you can't find this information. So clearly they're hiding it because they say it has a high drop rate, but it actually doesn't drop at all.
And, this brings in echoes of that whole controversy about the holiday event in Destiny 2.
Yep. I was just actually thinking about that. Or the double experience stuff that people data mined and found the hardware saying that you didn't actually get the experience and stuff like that. So good on them for making this 100% transparent. They said they wanted to be really upfront with it. And if they were upfront with their drop tables and stuff like that, then they wouldn't be accused of hiding that information when they're trying to hide the spoilers and the crucial game mechanics and stuff like that, because they have their drop tables up front, which again, just another reason why I think DE is a great company. And they really do, like, time and time again, even though I have, all my gripes sometimes about the game itself, the company seems to really have the players in mind. And this is just another reason why I see it, and it's amazing. And then one of the more lengthy ones that I guess I had thought of, but I hadn't, especially with a lot of the host migration errors that have been coming up recently, especially with Sanctuary Onslaught being released, of why they chose peer-to-peer versus servers. And they explained, at the start of the game, it was really just like a cost thing. It was, Warframe was a live or die situation. Like, they needed to get it out, and either it was going to work or all of them were going to lose their jobs. So when they were looking at what they could house and what they could realistically do to make a good game, the peer-to-peer was what worked. And I didn't know this, but that's how console games have worked a lot of times. They don't have dedicated servers. They do peer-to-peer as well. So I didn't know that. I guess it makes sense, though, right?
Yeah.
Because, I play, Borderlands and stuff like that with people on the console, and there's no servers to go through that. And they talked about, they might have plans in the future to do it, but it is a lengthy process, and having friends in IT, I know that 100% is true. Because not only do you have to get the server set up, but then you have to get stuff coded over to it, and then you need to take down the game to move everything over onto the server rack, and then you need to troubleshoot it and make sure it goes up.
Yeah, if they were to do this, like, I think the two big things that they would have to really account for would be the cost and the loss. Because you'd have to assume if they were going to do this, the game would be down for at least a few days.
Oh, yeah. If not more. It would have to be down a while.
Every other game that I've seen that's had this, like Black Desert had some server migration stuff where it was down for a few days, and some other games too. And there's a huge swath of the population that's like, okay, cool, I just won't log in for a couple days. And, usually there's going to be some sort of, here's a little gift for being patient. Thank you so much. Some sort of, I can see them doing a massive sale on Plat or a free, here's, free Prime access or, something. They'll do
compensation.
something. Yeah. A cool Sindana or something like that, something, a little something. But then there will be this small group of people that will be so loud about how they're just going to be brats. They're just going to throw a temper tantrum.
Yep. I can't play the game. Yeah, another thing that we at least Jeremy and I thought about is, we play with a lot of people that don't live in the US. So if they did servers, suddenly I can't play with my friend in Australia and our friends in London. Like, suddenly, that's not available anymore because we're not hosting peer-to-peer. So I can see the merits of it, better connections, more stable, maybe. But at the end of the day, I really like the...
depending on how they set it up, it could potentially mean, some of the they're going to have to move around some of the players and stuff. So, if they created an EU server or something, that would be... Yeah,
exactly. And how, divided would that make your player base, too?
Right.
Is there enough people playing in those regions? Because I know it's a really popular game, but are there enough in those regions to really warrant a server? Or are you going to force, a huge amount of people to, conform to these servers and have to deal with ping constantly versus being able to play with their friends and stuff like that?
So, a bit of quick breaking news. I say breaking news knowing I'm 5 days late with this information, but I have not seen this. I missed this. This sort of flew under the radar. They are actually changing the minimum supported specs for Warframe. Yes. They don't have a date on here of when this is going to happen, but this is a pretty big change, so they wanted to go ahead and get it out immediately. But they are actually ending support for DX9 and for 32-bit systems entirely.
Wow. I'm shocked they actually supported 32-bit, honestly, though.
So, I am too, but apparently they are. So it said if you are still running Windows XP, DirectX 9, or 32-bit operating systems, that this is going to be very relevant to you. They go into, we'll put a link to this if we can in the show notes or something. It's definitely worth a read, but the short version is the new minimum operating specs are going to be Windows 7, 64-bit systems, and DX10.
Okay.
So, and like I said, they don't have a date for when this is going in, but they're doing this because, they need to keep everything relevant for DirectX 11 and whatever's going to be coming after that. So going back and also updating like DX9 it's just slowing them down. So anything they can do to sort of streamline this process. So so we wanted to make sure we touched on that. If we hear anything more, now that I know this is a thing, I'll keep an eye on it. And if we get an update or something, we'll be sure to touch on it in a later episode. But yeah, this is a pretty big deal. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know many people who, are like serious about gaming that this might affect, but I know there's going to be some of you out there. So, just something to keep in mind. You might consider upgrading. Yeah,
most definitely. The 32 system one, I find hard to think that people are still running on 32. Which, if you are, I'm not making fun of you. I just think that's something I was always told at least when we built our computers, 4 or 5 years ago, we were saying always do 64.
Yeah,
don't do
that's
the 32.
What I was told because some games use 32 and some use 64. So if you have the 64, you could run the 32. But if you have the 32, you can't do 60. So I've just had it in my head if you are gaming, you need a 64.
Yep.
So. But now you do if you want to play Warframe. So
yeah, the DX9 one I can kind of see because I remember just a couple of years ago we switched to the DX11 is what we switched to. We did it when Final Fantasy XIV switched their client to DX11, so that's when we made sure that we could do it, and that was right when it was pretty new. And I heard talk of DX13 or 12, so I know at least 12 I think is out, maybe. Don't quote me. I'm not that much of a computer nerd.
I feel like we saw something about it recently.
Yeah, I feel like we saw something DX12 related.
Because I remember saying, whoa, 12 is out? Because the gaming industry made such a big deal about 11, but I didn't hear about 12.
Yeah. So, but yeah, make sure if that is going to be an issue, and then if it might be a good time to update the computer or just upgrade your operating, maybe upgrade your card. Although I highly recommend if you were going to upgrade your computer and what you need is a graphics card, take a look at how much money you have and just buy a new computer.
Yeah, we've been looking at getting some upgrades for our computer, and the disgusting thing is because of all this Bitcoin farming stuff. The graphics cards have just exploded here in the US.
Yep. I will just say right now, not even a year ago, I think, and maybe we're getting close to a year ago.
It was about a year,
because we used to be running on the GTX 1060 or 760s is what we had, because that was the top of the line when we bought our
That's what
computers.
I still have.
Yep, and Jeremy still runs on the 760 and it's doing perfectly fine. But my graphics card went down. Completely just out of nowhere. No warning. My computer
Thanks,
whole
surprise
froze.
Windows updates.
I know, right? Windows updated and my graphics card just was fried. Done. And I spent 6 hours trying to troubleshoot it, and finally we went and got a new graphics card, and we're like, well, we'll just try this and we'll plug it in and see if it works. And I got a 1050 Ti for $130. A 1050 Ti for $130 or $150 after taxes and stuff. It was $132 or something with a rebate. I think technically it was like $200 with like a 70, but anyway, it cost us $130. And now when we were at Fry's the other weekend, like last weekend, the 1050s were all gone. They only had one 1080, and it wasn't even a 1080 Ti. It was a 1080, and it was almost $1,000. And so when we came home, I looked up the HP Omen computers, and I saw how much it would be for a baseline build for one of their top of the lines that wasn't the Cube, and it's $1,200. So just buy yourself a new computer.
Yeah, it's looking more and more like that's going to be the best way to upgrade at this point.
Yeah, until the Bitcoin
ludicrous.
calms down. So yeah, so definitely take a look at that before you do anything. So I'm going to jump back to it because I still want to talk more about this, because I told you that is like the one thing that I'm looking forward to, which is the Sacrifice. And it could be just because we did the Chains of Hero quest just like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I did the prologue, the Protoss quest, and it is just in my head that I'm going to talk about it. So every single time I see some sort of post about it or idea about it or speculation, I am right there like thinking about it. So
that tinfoil hat's getting a lot of use this month.
Yeah, so strap in for some tinfoil hat talk. So I did find a really interesting speculation. And if you haven't done any of the quests or anything like that, I don't think, I mean, at this point, you know what's coming. It's really hard to play this game without seeing spoilers, especially on the Reddit and stuff. I mean, the Reddit at least is good about spoiler tags, and they'll go back in and put spoiler tags on everything.
Yeah, but DE is it?
Yeah, but DE is not. Yeah, they talk about it all the time.
They're pretty open about all this.
Yeah, so here's your one warning. If you don't want to know anything, or you haven't finished anything, you don't even want to hear the speculations or what we think or what we're finding people thinking, just go ahead and just skip forward a little bit and check back in a little bit later, and we'll see how this goes. So I did find a post by Daniel K2312 on the Reddit, and this was like a teaser from the website stuff. Specifically the new the Easter eggs that you find when you click on Ballas and Lua, on his eyes and on Lua, where it says Lua brings you strength, but you cannot defy your creator. So he got kind of tinfoil hatty into the idea, and I'll kind of TLDR it a little bit. So basically what he's thinking is that Margulis never actually died during the Old War, and was never killed or anything like that. But because he loved her and actually had feelings for her, he hid her away and had Nata, the sentient, kind of docile her, which is basically, as we've seen from when you first start playing and Space Mom talks to you, from when you finish the Hero quest, like her tone changes. So that's Nata's grip kind of getting loosened again. And then using us during that prologue quest, when we go and find Space Mom on Lua, he kind of uses that as a way to find Margulis again and takes her away to a safe place because he still loves her. So essentially that like was his whole thing, is that the wording of the Lua brings you strength, but you cannot defy your creator, was essentially for Space Mom, not for us. So that's why he was going for her. I don't know. This one's kind of weird for me. I can see it, but
I think the coolest part about this would be that it actually gives justification to, over the years, Rebecca just got more comfortable at being a voice actor. Because that could be what it is.
That could be, yeah.
You know, the tone was very stifled, and then over time she got more comfortable doing it, so there was a little more personality. She just got better at it.
Yeah.
But it would be really cool if they were like, hey, Rebecca's gotten so much better. If you go back and you play Vor's Prize, you know, it's like almost two different people because everything's so different. Like, can we roll this into the narrative?
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
That would be really neat. And I have thought of that before, especially now that Space Mom's gone and I have that little rendered holograph that Ortis made, which, gotta love Ortis. He's like my favorite character. He's so sweet and so perfect. But, you know, hearing that tone that she had at the start, that was just very formal, clipped, this is what you need to go. And then really when you were going through the Chains of Hero quest, like, she sounded really worried and she sounded like a mom, which is why people call her Space Mom. I get it.
Yeah, you can hear the concern, and that started bubbling up as soon as the Nata quest when she like panics and just totally bails on you, and you're like, she sounded scared, like just because you saw that sentient drone and you didn't know what you were looking at, but she sure did.
Yeah, which does lend a little credence to this type of theory that, you know, that's Margulis was under Nata's influence because she could see her, and maybe that's when that break started to happen because she started to wake up a little bit.
Yeah, and when you first read this to me, I was pretty skeptical, but then as you went into like more of the details from the bullet points and stuff, I actually forgot that Nata was Hun Hao's daughter. Mm-hmm. And because, you know, when I was first thinking of this, I was like, I can see where they're coming from, but there's not like a hardline link between the Lotus and the sentience. So is she really a sentient? And then I was like, oh, right. Lotus is Nata and maybe Margulis somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't know. Like I think this would be really cool.
Yeah, and we'll have links to this in the show notes as well, so you can kind of read the full like write-up on this, because it is a very interesting theory, and there's a lot of good discussion on it. I think for me, though, the one that lies the most with it is everybody, as soon as I heard that, you know, those words from the teaser on the website and stuff like that, I really thought, like, oh my god, it's the Tenno. Oh my god, you know, he's talking to me. I'm going to have to, you know, think about this. And I was like, wait, but Ballas isn't my creator. You know, Margulis is the one that made it. So there's two branching theories right now that I've seen. Is that there's one that is the message is about him doing something to Space Mom, to Margulis, essentially. And we're not going to be able to deny her because he'll have control over her. And some weird coming of age thing there. Or the opposite is that message was directly for our Warframes, because he was one of the creators of the Warframes, of the originals, which, side note really quick while we're speaking about originals and original frames, in that video that we'll have linked where they were answering questions, they did get a question about was there ever an original Warframe? And Rev Ford was just like, yeah, primes, that's what they were. And Stephen hesitated and just said yes. And I'm pretty sure that there was more there. So I'm wondering maybe if this is where we're going to kind of get the answer there. Like, are we people? What really are the Warframes? Because that's another big thing that I saw, is that this story originally was to describe and to explain what really are the Warframes. Like, what are they?
And that would be so cool because, like, you know, one of the moments that just sort of has been, like, hand-waved away by a lot of people, like, as just, you know, like with, because there are some rather simple explanations for what's going on, but your Warframe moved by itself in the War Within.
Mm-hmm. It did.
Or sorry, in the Second Dream.
Yeah. Because,
you know, there are a lot of people that I have seen, and rightly so, that were saying, like, oh, this is, you know, this was because, you know, your Tenno was still, like, sort of in control as the stalker attacked or whatever. And you know, maybe so. But that's not really how I interpret it, because you're, like, half conscious and you're worried, and nothing that we've seen supports the idea that the Tenno, like, maybe now because their transference is so much stronger now, but at the time of the Second Dream, your Tenno is blasting with his your little hand beam and stuff. Mm-hmm. And also controlling the frame.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch. And you're obviously not strong enough to walk, so...
Right, yeah. Like, now I can see that being a possibility because of the way that the War Within played out. The transference link is now, like, at Super Saiyan levels. It's over 9,000. But back then, when we're dealing with the Stalker and Hudhao, it wasn't that powerful.
Yeah.
You weren't that good. So... was it the Tenno still moving the Warframe, or did the Warframe actually come to life and pull the Stalker's sword out of its own chest? Like, and I subscribe to the idea that it did it on its own because, and I think I brought this up on the show a couple episodes ago, I really love the idea, as scary as it is, that the way this works is the original frames had their consciousness pushed out of them when the Tenno originally established that link.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I think the weird hesitation reaction to by Steven, I think that's sort of pointed at that. With the whole like, Rebecca's like, "Oh, it was the primes," and Steven gets like really weird and quiet about it, like,
yeah,
I don't know, like,
what did that mean? I don't know. There's just so much weird stuff there. I do think that it's really interesting to think that was actually said to the frame versus not, because I've seen like a description about it is like the Warframes got their power from Lua because that's where the Tenno were. The Tenno were hidden away on Lua, and that's where they got their their power. And then you cannot defy your creator. Well, Ballas is the Warframe's creator. He's the one that helped create those with the 7 executors. Like, that was him. So it works for that. I really do see. And I do think it's also kind of interesting, the other theory as well. And I don't know if you've seen this one, Jeremy. I saw someone briefly mention it, and then it's kind of just been sitting in my head this whole time we've been, recording this episode. Is that somehow that little magic hand wave thingy that he did, that clearly is like Super Amadeus power right there,
yeah,
that severed all those links. We were created by Margulis, right? So Margulis is our mom, essentially. So the idea of it is that we got our power from Lua because that's where the Tenno were hiding out, and we cannot defy Margulis, who's our creator. Which if Lotus really is Margulis, then he just mind controlled and walked away with her. So basically we can't defy her, but it kind of works also for that coming of age story too, of us getting pitted against Space Mom, which would be kind of sad. I would cry. So it's a very interesting thing. I can see both sides. I don't know. I just want all the answers.
I still have a feeling that if the whole idea that transference can replace the consciousness that's already in the entity that you're taking over, I can totally see this coming down, because my idea kind of fits with what you just said. I can see this coming down to Ballas is like, yeah, you can't touch me because I'm in control of your Space Mom. And Space Mom looks at us and says, do it. And then we take over, and we have to play as Space Mom.
And Umbra's actually Space Mom.
Fucking wreck some shit.
Oh.
Sorry to be so crass, but if I've got to like replace Space Mom's consciousness to kill Ballas, I am gonna wreck some face.
Speaking of that, there was another photo I saw this week, and it took me forever to find it, and I do not know, because it was posted on the Warframe PC Facebook group. I do not know if this was a fan edit or if someone else made it, but I highly don't think it was, because it looked like in-game textures rendered.
It did.
And in it shows Ballas, his kind of like drawing of him, sort of like the poster. It was really cool, and it was in front. And then you see the backside profile of somebody, like from like if you were standing behind their butt, but like off to the side a little bit. And on the hip,
the sweet spot.
Yeah, on the sweet spot. Just enough bubble, but not too much.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So on the hip of this person was a katana, and on the legs you could see strapped throwing weapons, and it looked like Lotus.
It did.
It looked seriously like Lotus. Like Lotus was sitting there was standing there with her hand, and it was her hands because they were ungloved too, and it looked like Lotus standing there with the katana on her hip, like holding it and throwing weapons. And holy crap, like is Space Mom gonna like fight?
Now, I will just point out that there is a Warframe-themed fighting game about to come out, and Lotus has been seen as one of the characters. I don't know if she's playable or just like, you know, the boss. Like, for the longest time, Street Fighter and Bison wasn't playable. I think you had to, like, beat the game or something.
Yeah.
So it could be something like that. But on the screenshots that I saw, she was there. So there is a possibility that maybe that was a teaser for this.
Yeah, maybe, and they just kind of like mixed the images together or something.
Yeah,
and edited it together.
Could be, but I hope that that's not the case. I hope you're right. I really
hope we
do.
can fight as Space Mom. That would be so cool.
And this is doubly true if Space Mom is the sacrifice. If that's what this has all been leading up to, as some people have mentioned, you know, this is kind of a coming of age story, and at some point the Tenno are going to need to do this themselves. They're going to need to rise up and you know, be their own level of badass. So yeah, I can kind of see, like, you know, maybe
she takes
Space
down
Mom.
Ballas.
Yeah, but yeah, and if that's the route they go, I want to see her go down gloriously like that. Like, just
oh my god, yes.
Really, like, I don't want to see her get Boba Fetted, you know, like that's gonna crush me.
Yeah, I could see it for the shock value. Like, I've had games where they're like that, like you walk in and then just something happens and you're just left like, what? And you have that shock moment. But I feel like, I don't know, Space Mom deserves a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like as effective as the shock can be, I feel like that would be kind of cheap to waste it on the Lotus.
I know.
I think she deserves more as a character.
Yep, I think she deserves a glorious battle and awesomeness.
Yep.
Plus, like, we've seen Lotus show up before and carry us into a pod, and we've seen Lotus do other stuff. I think it's time for her to actually, like, really step up and be, like, the badass mom. You know?
Right.
I just think it'd be cool to see that. So yeah, there's a lot of theories out there right now.
There's so much good speculation.
Oh my god.
And I say to everybody listening, like, you keep it coming.
Know,
all
right?
the way up to release. Let's keep enjoying this tinfoil hat time, because, you know, we don't know what the next set of quests is, and we don't know when they're coming, so we need to enjoy this.
Yep, we need to enjoy the final chapter. So yeah, it's really exciting. But, you know, thinking of back on like fan stuff, I know Jeremy mentioned that we do have a fan concept that we'd like to look at. Now, I haven't really looked at this one, but he told me it was similar to something that we were talking about literally like a night or two ago.
Yep.
And then he ended up finding this. So I'm actually going to have Jeremy explain this one, because I know I found the last one that we talked about. That was Faber. So I'd like. Yeah. So what is this frame that you found? Because I'm super excited.
So this one comes to us from Roos, or I'm betting it's Ross with a lot of O's. It's like 3 O's.
That's fair, yeah.
But yeah, and according to their tag, they're a PS4 player, I guess. But their frame, and they just posted this on Thursday, and this is, I will admit, Faber had a very fleshed out idea. That had been run through the process several times, a lot of work. This one is actually still brand new, but don't let that dissuade you, and we'll put the link to it in the show notes. Definitely, like, go leave this guy some feedback, because we talked about frame bloat a couple weeks ago, and the concept of, like, how many frames, like, how many original unique ideas are really left. And Roos found one, I think.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far, this looks really unique.
Yeah, so this is a stealth frame, but it's also not a stealth frame. It's stealth through, like, infiltration. So its name is Insecta, which is, as they note here, the Latin word for morphology. So when I first read this, I was like, oh, a bug frame. I'll click on a bug frame. It's not a bug frame.
Not a bug frame.
It's not a bug frame. It could be. Like, they could do that. And there's some stuff in here I think would be kind of cool if it was kind of a bug theme, but It's not Insect, which
Yeah.
is what my brain said. It's Insecta. So they've got 150 health, 75 shield, 100 armor, 175 energy. So pretty run-of-the-mill stats. They're a little low, but that's typical for the stealth type frames. Nice bit of armor at 100 though. I'm actually, for the first couple parts, I'm actually just going to read it verbatim, and we can stop and discuss as we go. The 3 and the 4 skills, especially the 3, they seem to be a little more unsure of how this stuff works. They're still sort of formulating these ideas. And like I said, this is brand new, but I don't know. I really love it. I actually like this more than Faber. I do. And I thought Faber was a fantastic frame. Like, the more you read, the more on board I was.
But Green Lantern
Builder frame. I know. And that's not a dig on the other frame. I don't know.
We were talking about wanting the other night. I get it.
I literally was. You actually were talking about wanting a frame that does this, and then I just happened to find one when we were looking. So
maybe they were watching the stream.
Maybe.
All right, take us into this. So what is Insecta? What do they do?
Insecta is a frame who confuses and deceives the enemy with the ability to replicate the enemy or body of themselves in order to trick the enemy to think they are someone they are not. Don't turn your back on Insecta or you will regret it.
Ooh, I see why you picked this one.
Yep.
So for the reference, we were actually talking about it the other day while we were running. I don't remember. We were running something. We were playing Warframe. That's all that matters. And we were talking about how it'd be kind of cool to have an infiltrator that's like TF2. And I don't know what made me think about it, but somebody that could, in a pinch, don the look of someone else. And we got talking about it because of Limbo, actually. Because it'd be really funny if there was a frame who could make himself look like Limbo to trigger people, even though it's not a Limbo, and throw people off. And that's what we thought about it, and I can see where this is going, and I'm really excited because this is why Jeremy looked and found this. It's because that's what we were talking about. It's a frame that could replicate or turn themselves like an infiltrator to look like the enemy team or look like somebody else.
Yeah. So we're going to start with their first ability. Their passive is actually part of their third ability, so we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So Morph turns the Tenno into an enemy of the faction you are currently fighting, tricking the enemy to thinking you are one of them. You may not attack while morphed, and it is a toggled channeled ability. So I imagine one of two things. You either can't attack or attacking would break it.
Yeah, that would what I would think.
Yeah,
almost like Avara's stealth.
Right, yeah.
You could roll, but if you sprint or bullet jump, you're out.
Yeah.
So if you attack, you're out.
So if you were on a Grenier map, this would turn you into like a Heka or a Butcher or something. It'd make you look like one of them. And so you could move around.
I already see an augment for this that's very similar to Avara that lets you get past for spy missions.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe this doesn't inherently work on cameras or lasers, but there's an augment that allows it to bypass cameras or lasers, or there's a mod that allows you to auto-hack consoles.
Ooh, I think it should let you automatically bypass cameras and the little finder lasers. Now, not the little orange wispy ones that every single triggers, because they still trigger with Avara too. So not those, because that's the hard counter to her.
Right.
I think that needs to be a hard counter. But I really like the augment that you could. It allows you to do stealth kills, but only stealth kills, and while you're morphed, and you can automatically hack consoles. That would be a cool augment for that.
An auto, a stealth kill type thing, that. That would be really cool if it let you do a stealth kill, and as long as you didn't have nothing else had line of sight on you, then you didn't break stealth doing it?
I think that's a little too much, personally. But I like to go in the favor of making them powerful and then buffing them and then nerfing them to the ground. All right, keep going. I like it already.
I know, right? This is
really cool.
So the second one is called Deceive. Switch positions with the enemy, making the enemy look like you while making you look like the rest, or like the enemy, causing the enemies to shoot at the enemy. So they used enemies a lot. So the way that this sounds to me is it's essentially Loki's switch teleport, except at the end of it, the enemy you switched with looks like Loki, and Loki looks like the enemy he switched with.
Okay, so let me kind of come up with a mental image here to kind of make this a little more understandable, because I remember when you first read this to me earlier, because you did read this ahead of time just so I could like kind of an idea. I got really confused with this one. So the way that we thought about it is, imagine that you're on like Hydron or a Grenier map, and there's a Nox or like a Heka Master that's surrounded by dogs, and everybody is shooting at the Heka Master, but it's like an Eximus or something, so it's really hard to go down. So you use this ability and you switch places with it. So then all of a sudden, all of the dogs would start attacking it because the frame would pop up in the center. So suddenly in the middle of all these dogs, it looks like suddenly there's the Insecta. And then you, as looking like the Heka Master, are over by your friends, and you can just walk around because your friends would hopefully, like your team would know not to attack you.
Kind of, except the way this is described, you do actually switch places.
Okay, you do. Well, that's what I meant. Like, you would actually... Oh, so you would actually be standing as your frame?
Yes. So let's go with your example. There's a Heka Master surrounded by all of her cats. She just summoned them, and she's sending them your way. You cast this ability on the Heka Master. You switch places with the Heka Master. But as far as those cats are concerned, the Tenno's still standing where it was, and it still goes and attacks the Tenno. Except the Tenno is the Heka Master now.
Oh, and it says on here that you can't damage or move, so you literally just be standing there kind of like it's like a pin cushion, so they can kill it.
Right.
Okay. So you would just be standing there, and then all of the cats would come and attack you until you die or until you cancel the ability.
Right.
And then you go back to where you were. Or you return to your body.
I imagine this would work better if instead of returning to your body, if you moved, it just breaks the enchantment, and then you look like yourself again. But you would be standing where you ended the teleport, not where you started the teleport.
Yeah, I think this would need a little bit more work just to make it a little bit more clear.
Yeah, but I think the bones of this are still really strong.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea.
And, there's two other stealth frames that have a very similar switch positions. Ash has his insta-kill murder ability, and Loki, of course, has switch teleport. So this this definitely harkens back to those two frames, and so this is already a mechanic that exists in a way. So I feel like in a way, like balancing this would be a lot easier because you're working with a sort of existing ability and you're just decorating it to the flavor of the frame in a really unique way. So I don't know, I really like this. So those two skills both get an A from me. I think Deceive, you're right. I think it needs a little cleaning up, but I really like it.
The core concept of what they're trying to do right there is really cool, where you would switch and basically you would make the enemy look like the Tenno, so all of the other enemies would kill that one, but it would actually be the enemy. So it's basically like turning the enemy to look like you. And it could be easily switched where it's not a switch. It's just suddenly there's another Tenno there, like Saren's, think of it like Saren's Spore copy. It creates like a facade over it that everybody starts attacking then. Now, I can see where it can kind of get close to other skills, but I do think that that's a really cool idea. It's just how to balance it and how to make it actually work where it makes sense. But yeah, it's really cool. I'm liking it. What else we got?
So the next ability, they actually have two different versions of it, and I only read you the updated one just for time's sake while we were checking these. So their original idea was, so it's called Distort. Their original one was it suspends a group of enemies' movements and distorts their physique, making it more difficult for the enemy to attack once unfrozen. And what they mean by this is it mutates them in a way. It removes arms, adds extra legs, freezes time, like twists it. It mangles their body and mutates them so it's more difficult for them to do things. So it's a CC.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
But with a really almost horrific mental image,
like the body morphic.
Yeah. So when I read this, I thought of there was an episode of X-Files where these two kids they sneak out to this field and they're making out and a UFO flies overhead and the UFO the radiation from it or something fuses the kids together.
Ew.
So their faces are stuck together and their arms are fused together. It's really horrifying. But that's what I thought of when I read this. I was like, that could be really neat. And that is a unique thing to this. So, the way that they actually updated it goes even further into what I was talking about now, it actually fuses together a group of enemies, imploding them to deal AoE blast damage, and then they explode, throwing all the body parts around the room, so it's sort of like a twofold blast. One is a small blast that implodes and fuses all the enemies together, and then after a time, they will then explode, throwing all the body parts. So it would do blast damage when it went in, and I believe they say impact damage. Yeah, it's impact damage when the body parts go flying back out.
I can just imagine like being a Grenier and standing there and saying, "Hey, Steve," and then Steve just suddenly gets sucked into this weird ball that's like a squid baby but made of more Grenier, and then he like pops back out and he goes, "Sorry, mate," and he smacks me in the face.
Exactly, yeah.
That would be hilarious.
So I like both versions of this ability. I think the updated one is probably... I actually think it would be more useful. I think it's a good update.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Thinking design-wise, I think it would also be a little bit more useful.
Yeah.
Or a little bit more easy to balance and deal with. It would
feel kind of like Nidus's Squid Baby, where it pulls the enemies in, and then after you detonate, your one ability, it throws them all over the room. It ragdolls their bodies, because they only go flying when they're dead out of Squid Baby, but it's the same concept. So I really like that second one.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see how it would work all together, I guess. But it is a really cool idea, and I like that it's playing on this weird morphing, disorienting, kind of bending reality without having to use a rift. I think it's cool.
So I'll go ahead and put a little footnote in here. This is where the passive comes in. When Insecta is killed or downed, the enemy that got the killing blow gets distorted cast on them automatically.
That's kind of cool.
So it would be a nice, like, auto CC, like, you're running Insecta and you go down. Well, I don't have to worry about getting shot at when I come to res you, because you've CC'd a portion of the room with the damage and the blast. So there's a little bit of play there. The only downside is, and this doesn't necessarily prevent this passive from working, because Valbon's passive is very much the same way. This passive doesn't work at all in solo.
Yeah, because it would... I mean, if you revive immediately, they still be disordered when you got killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you immediately get to revive once you're downed.
Valbon's passive is garbage, because...
That's fair.
It gives him more armor based on the number of other players in his party, and he doesn't have any in solo.
That's fair.
So, yeah, so this isn't that bad, but I like it, though. Mm-hmm. I do like it.
I still like the concept as a whole. What's for number 4?
So the number 4 is actually the least stealthy skill on here, but that's good, because not every skill in the kit needs to be stealth oriented. Especially if you look at, this is an alt stealth, so this is like Banshee levels of stealth, So their big super is called Transform. It actually morphs Insecta into a super creature, and they said possibly a combination of recently killed enemies. So she becomes one of these giant masses of body parts and stuff.
Gets an extra arm, a beefy arm at the back. Suddenly she's breathing fire and burning the village.
I imagined it sort of like great big beefy arms or something.
I was imagining Trogdor.
Because everybody needs an arm in their back.
Yep, beefy arm in the back. All right.
It says, for the duration, it allows the Tenno to be able to knock the enemies around and do a small amount of damage. It does low amounts of damage, but knocks enemies around, giving the Tenno a large health pool.
Oh my god, I know what this is.
I do too.
This is Winston.
This is why I imagined big arms.
Yep, this is Winston from Overwatch.
It's Primal Rage.
It's Primal Rage.
And there isn't something like this. There's not really a hard CC that focuses on just throwing enemies about. So I really like this.
Especially if you could just knock people off ledges.
Actually, now that I say that, this harkens to the same type of massive CC that Zephyr and Hydroid both have, except where Zephyr and Hydroid can both be frustrating because you can't control how long the enemies are CC'd. This would give total control to the player doing this CC, because if players are like, whoa, you stop CCing stuff so we can kill them, this is the end of the defense wave, you're like, okay, and you just stop hitting them. Whereas Hydroid, once that tentacle has a hold of it, that tentacle is going to hold on to it, and it makes it really tough to shoot them.
Yeah, I could see this having really good play with other frames too, because think about it. If you were to transform, so you have an Insecta and she transforms, and say, because we've talked about it, you have a Limbo with a Cataclysm bubble up, and that's about to pop stasis, you can knock a bunch of them into there so they can stasis them. Or if you're playing with a Frost, you can knock a bunch of them into the Frost bubble. Yeah. You can knock them towards Zephyr stuff. Like, you could actually get really good, and I would create an entire mini game of this, called enemy pool, and see where I can knock them and like angle them around hallways.
I was thinking of calling it Strangle Ball, and have Akora pop Strangle Dome and have Insecta run around throwing enemies into the ball.
You could like have how many points you get based on like which like little hole in the Strangle Dome, like how high or low. Exactly. So I have a mini game with this.
I don't know how the super creature part of this transform would work, but the mechanics of the skill are solid. I really like this, CC. Yeah. I really like this. So yeah, this whole thing, like, I know Distort, it has two different versions on here. The updated Distort is a lot better. And Deceive, I think, is a really solid ability, but the wording needs tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, the way it interacts needs a little bit tweaked there.
But, a once-over through this, and I think this is going to be a really solid setup. I would love to see this frame right up there with Faber for me. I would love to see both of these frames added into the game. But
most definitely. I think this is really interesting.
Yeah. The only thing I'm sad about with Insecta is there is no art.
Yeah, I did see somebody on here, the blue L33, or the blue Leet MC, I'm assuming that's Leet speak, for L33T, did ask if he could make concept art, and that was just posted this past Thursday. So I'm really hoping to see some concept art like come up for this, because I think it'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So definitely it looks like he's making adjustments to this. He's editing it a lot, trying to add in. So definitely we're going to have links to this in the show notes. If you have any thoughts about it, definitely, pop this up there. Go give this attention, because I think this is really cool, and this is a different frame that works differently, and it's something that we don't see yet, and I think it has really interesting play. Yeah, some of them, some of these abilities are similar to other abilities and how they work, but I think it's not only far enough away, but it's also graphically far enough away. It's not like I drop a bubble or I, shoot this or something like that. Like, this is a very different one, like what I would almost consider to like a Mirage, because Mirage does like her 4 ability, tosses out that ball and does blind. Well, you've got Pocket Sand that does blind. You've got Gera that does blind. But it looks different, and it has a different way that it interacts. So I really do think that this is cool.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this is all 4 skills are similar enough to something that exists, but they're used in a way that's new, and they're also like, it's not like every single one of these abilities is on the same frame. They all seem to be like the skeletons of other frames' abilities put together in a nice new package.
Yeah, fleshed out differently.
Yeah, so I feel like the best part about this is this would be really easy to pick up and start playing. Like, if this guy came out, this girl, it is a female frame.
It is a female frame, yes.
If this frame came out next week, I could sit down and I could get into it right away. Like, I'd know if I liked the frame's execution right away, because it feels just familiar enough.
But also just different.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I gotta say, hats off. This is 2 in a row that have just impressed the hell out of me.
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, we'll have links to it. Check it out and kind of let us know, and definitely let him know what you think. I think this is one that could get really fleshed out and turn really cool.
Yeah, we'll like we've said a couple times, we'll post the link to the forum directly. It's called Insecta - a Warframe Concept. If you can't wait for the show notes and you just want to go straight to it, go check it out. Leave this person some feedback, because this deserves to be as fleshed out as some of the others that I've seen. This is a really solid concept.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see this fleshed out to the point of Faber, where we're looking at more information and more details about specifically how it would scale, some rewording and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check it out. Give it some love. But I think that's actually going to be all for our show today. Sorry this one went a little bit longer, but we just had a lot of really cool stuff and actually got into a lot of discussion, so I think it was worth it at the end of the day.
Oh, it's always worth it. They got to spend more time with us.
I know, right? Got to hear our lovely voices. So yeah, just a reminder, we do have a capture contest going right now for the podcast. There is a theme, Fun in the Sun. Take that how you will. I'm really excited to see if people get creative with it. You just need to get a capture of a Warframe. Reshaders and things like that are allowed. You can use any frame, kind of just, it's free form. The winner is actually going to get featured as our offline image on Twitch. You will get front page featured on our website, which should be released in the coming weeks, which once we get that released, we'll give you the information for the website and all that good stuff. And you will also get a $25 Steam gift card, which can be used for TennoGen stuff and, Plat or whatever else you'd like to get to kind of help out and up your fashion frame game on that end. So yeah, and how you enter that is you just need to send it in to TennoTalk@gmail.com, and it'll be one entry per person. And you have from now, it started last week, you have until the 29th to enter. So make sure you are sending those in. On June 29th is the cutoff date, and we will announce the winner on July 1st. I'm super excited.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I've been upping my Captura game and posting it all over the Discord constantly of my new Captura pictures as I'm learning how to make it work a little bit more and all the new nuances and ins and outs. So yeah, I'm super excited. But until then, I think that's all going to be, like I said, all for us this week. I think that's all the news and stuff that we've got. The only other thing I can think of is we do have we're getting closer to our Twitch goal. So if you're ever watching people on Twitch, we are about, I think at this point right now, 10 followers away. Once we hit 50 followers on Twitch, we will be doing a Prime giveaway. So we're going to be giving away a Prime frame. So definitely if you're on Twitch or, you want to stop by and check us out, we'll have the information later. But definitely give us a follow there and come show up and, have your chance of getting a Prime frame. So I'm super excited for that as well. So that'll be it for us until, and from both of us at this point. Thank you guys for listening. I love seeing all of the feedback we've been getting and, watching this grow. So if you like it, make sure to tell your friends. If your friends play Warframe, they might like it too, because literally we're trying to spread on word of mouth right now. So share us with all your friends. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I can't wait for Vlad.
Of course, you're still thinking about Beard.
Everybody's so excited about Excalibur, Umbra, and Limbo Prime, but hot damn, I want that beard.
You're still thinking about the ghost beard.
Yeah, ghost beard. That's. Now I have Beard Prime in game, so now I really want I want a frame that will properly showcase that. And before anybody says it, Hydroid Prime's little floppy leather thing, that's not a beard. That's like a face tumor or something. I don't know. That's not a beard.
Yep. So yeah, and hopefully maybe we'll get some more flat information at TennoCon. Hopefully.
Yeah, he won't. I want him to be out before then. He won't be out before TennoCon.
Yeah. So from Jeremy and I, thank you guys for hanging out with us today and giving this a listen. And we will see you guys next week for episode 7. And until next time, stay safe, Tenno. TennoTalk is a weekly Warframe podcast produced and edited by Rebecca and Jeremy Goodrich. Warframe is created by Digital Extremes. Music for the podcast provided by Purple Planet Music, and the Ortus sound clip was provided by Digital Extremes Fansite Kit. You can email the show at tennotalk@gmail.com, and you can reach us on Twitter at tenno_talk. You can also join us live on Twitch at TennoTalk on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern. You can download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and along with most major podcasting apps. If you like the show, be sure to rate us and leave a review. It will really help other Tenno find out about it as well. And thank you so much, and we'll see you next week for episode 7.